Right, hang on. I think I've got it. I think I've got it. I think I've got it.
So EI is our strong point, but technology not so much at the moment.
Right, okay. So it's telling me I've got Myra invited and she's unable to join, which is really weird. Really weird. So, because I've done exactly the same with what I've done with you.
It's for some reason it's got to be on the phone, Di, because it didn't work on the laptop.
No, exactly. So, Myra, if you're watching, which hopefully you are, because you're coming on here with us. Hopefully, if you're watching, do it on the phone. That's probably a lot easier. Let's hope so.
Can anybody in the comments say whether they can see Di as well? Because I am.
Can you still not see me, Sam?
No.
God. We are meant to be starting, guys. I am sorry. We are meant to be starting. See, I can see myself in this bit. Right, if you are, can anybody just put in, I can see both of you.
Oh, that's right.
Sophie.
Thanks,
That's
Sophie.
brilliant. Yay, it's just you, Sam. You can't see
Oh,
me.
so I get to just look at myself now, do I, for the next?
Beautiful. You're beautiful, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Now, hang on. It's saying that Myra's not able to join. This is really strange. Hang on. Oh no, it says unable. Ah, Myra, where are you? We need Myra as well. It is the three of us. We are, as we call ourselves, the Thriving Three is our name that we call ourselves. So we are definitely a trio, but our number three is not able to come on at the moment, which is really, really strange. I don't quite know how I can get her on there without that. Hang on. Right, Myra, we will get you on. It's just saying, it just keeps saying unable, Myra, which is really strange. Anybody who's on here that is technically minded, if you have any ideas of how Myra might not be able to get on, is very, very, very strange. Aha, hang on, hang on, hang on. It's just said it. It has just said it. Go live with her, so I'm hoping she's been able to come on.
You'll be loving life if this works.
I absolutely will be loving life to the max. Oh, yay!
And Myra, we
Right,
can see your
Myra,
nose.
there you
Oh,
go.
look,
Oh,
turn the
brilliant.
camera around. As you can see, we
Myra,
have been
brilliant.
preparing for this masterclass for you.
We have. So, yes, we are definitely, apart from those technical difficulties, you do have to excuse us, but we still can't see your face, Myra. Right, while Myra's starting to work out her, oh, hang on. We're nearly there. I feel it in my bones. We're nearly there. Okay, so as Myra's working out her features, getting them on here, I'm going to start by welcoming everybody to our first of many masterclasses. There's Myra! Yay! Brilliant, fantastic. So the three of us
Oh my
are
goodness.
back on.
I had to use my phone. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. That little stress, you know, our emotional intelligence was definitely in play there at that point. So I want to start by welcoming everybody to our very first masterclass, and we're hoping that this is going to be the first of many. So tonight we are going to talk about the importance of boundaries and how you can set them in a way that will not only strengthen the bond with your child, but also to create a safe, loving environment. Now, For the next 45 minutes or so, we are going to guide you through the benefits of setting boundaries with your child, as well as a few tools and strategies that you may be able to use as well. So to make the most out of the next 45 minutes, we ask that please share anything in the comments that you want to share with us. If you have any questions, we are going to leave 15 minutes at the end, but if you want to fire them into the comment box, and then I can read them out, or Sam or somebody can read them out at the end, and we can answer your questions then as well. So to start off with, this is obviously the first that you've seen the three of us. So who are we? Well, let me start by saying that all three of us are parents ourselves. So we can honestly say that those moments when your child has been screaming in the middle of the supermarket, and all the eyes of everybody around you are just kind of, it feels like laser beams towards you. We've been there. We've been there, and we know exactly what it's like. So we hear you in that. And that thought process of those eyes going, oh, how are they going to deal with this one? So we've all been teachers, and we have a combined experience of over 50 years. 50 years, guys. That's a lot. That's quite scary when you put it into that sense, isn't it? 50 years. So our expertise range from early years all the way through to 18, and we've also had some leadership experience as well. So as I said before, we're all mums, and we all have children with different gifts. So Sam is a mum of 2 young children under the age of 5. My son had, and I say had, anxiety, and Myra's son has been diagnosed with gifted and talented as well. So the strategies that we are going to show you today, we have practiced and we've experienced with our own children. So there's, between the three of us, the knowledge and experience that we have is really vast. So I will now pass over to Myra, because she's going to start us off with the first sort of element of boundary setting.
Yes, thank you, Di. So can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to start this with one very simple thought: boundaries. So when we say that word, what comes to mind? So how do you see boundaries in your life? So do you see them as something like glass that looks like rigid, clear, but that can also be fragile, that you are afraid that if you push it too far, it might shatter or break? Or do you see them more like Play-Doh, so it came prepared, that you can actually stretch it, it's fun, it's malleable? So it is important to start thinking about that. So if you can put on the chat, so what's your impression of boundaries? So do you see them as something rigid or something that is more fun? And we're going to continue talking about boundaries in that way. Now, as we talk about boundaries, we really need to talk about why are they so important. Now, they are important because they are really crucial for our well-being, our family's well-being, and also to strengthen our connection with our child. So knowing that they are so important, why are they so hard sometimes to set? Why do we struggle so much, at least in my case, with setting boundaries? So if you can share in the chat, we would love to hear from you. What are some of the things that you think are getting in the way, or that can make setting boundaries really difficult for you? So put it one in the chat if you ever experience, like Di was saying, being at a supermarket and then all of a sudden your child or your son starts screaming or being really upset because they really wanted that ice cream or that toy that they saw in the eyes, and you didn't want to get it for them. So, and all of a sudden you feel that all the eyes are on you, your child is screaming or playing up in your supermarket, and you feel that, oh my God, she just wants to disappear. Or if you are at home, everything is calm, fantastic, it's time to go to bed, and you say, okay, my love, just put your screen down, or let's turn the TV off, and that's enough to just start World War One. And not to mention if you have maybe older kids. So with them, it's not about tantrums really anymore, but it's more about they come home, they go to their bedroom, and they don't want to get out of there. So it's almost like you don't even know who you are living with. So all those things that are happening in our family every single day, it's important for us to really have a clear idea of how do we want to tackle those things. And why is it so challenging sometimes to really set a boundary in a loving way without feeling that we are pushing things too hard or that they are pressing our boundary or our buttons and makes us feel that that's it. This whole beautiful home is no longer feeling the same. So I'm not sure if, because I can't see the chat, but hopefully you are relating to Di. Can you see any of the comments?
So we've got Sophie said she feels boundaries are rigid. And then we have LM Chapman who says clarity in the moment, that it's not the normal reaction, so the boundary wobbles.
Yes. And we feel when that happens, we really feel that this is not really working. Now, so what are boundaries? Boundaries are really guidelines that we put in place so our kids feel supported, but also know what the limits are. They are not punitive, and we are not just putting measures just because we say so. Now, there's always a reason why, and it's always also for them to understand what are the things that are expected from them. So it's a way to also develop some self-discipline and empathy at home when we establish loving boundaries. So as we were saying before, boundaries are like Play-Doh because we can do so much with Play-Doh. We can create beautiful balls that have no rough edges, and once you let them go, they just go non-stop. We can create beautiful things like dye. I'm not quite sure.
Snail. My
It was the
artistic
angle. It
skill
was the angle,
is a
sorry.
snail. Thank you.
And whatever comes to our mind, we can actually create it. So everything and anything is possible. But if we think that this Play-Doh is our children, then we can actually see that everything we do can really dictate so much. It can mold their confidence, their self-esteem, the same as it did with us and our parents before us and their parents before them. So it's really important for us to really get mastery in knowing how to play this loving boundaries game. So we can set boundaries that are crucial, but we feel that we're doing it lovingly in a way. So what I'm going to ask now is what happens in your body when you're setting boundaries. If you think for a few seconds and you remember a situation where you had to set a boundary to your child, so what happens that makes setting that boundary so difficult? So what happens in your body, what sort of feelings or in your mind that really makes that difficult, especially when you get resistance from your child?
I could name quite a few things that happened in me when I was setting boundaries with my children. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it is, sometimes it's guilt, sometimes it's that fear of, or maybe being too harsh or not harsh enough, or sometimes it's fear of being judged, especially if we are in the supermarket or if we are outside. So we can feel sometimes judged because we are not doing enough, we are not being harsh enough. Yeah.
Myra, LM Chapman's just made a very, very good point to doubting that it's not the right one. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. Doubt. That happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Or even feeling that you're being judged because you're not setting enough boundaries. So it's really tricky. And the reason is because at the heart, really, it's what's really underneath of that is that fear that we are not really connecting with our children, that we might break that relationship, or even that we might fail them if we don't, like you were saying just then, if we don't do things the right way. So as we go through this talk today, it is really important to remember to reframe how we understand boundaries. So it's not just saying no to something that your child wants. It's really thinking about, it is saying yes to establishing loving boundaries. It is saying yes to strengthen your connection with your child, to give your child skills that are going to be really good for the rest of their lives, like self-regulation, resilience. And it's also saying yes to having a more peaceful and harmonious family life, which is what we all want. And I believe,
Myra,
yes,
can I jump in there? Just
sure.
because I know that there are some teachers watching as well, and that this actually is really important to think about this in the classroom too, because obviously we set boundaries, don't we, for our pupils, and we can come up against the resistance from children. I know myself, it's become more apparent as the years of the teaching has gone on. So because of whatever has been happening and mental health, I think, that we come across this, don't we?
We do all the
Yeah.
time. And I guess it depends on what age group you work with. Because in my case was more the older kids, the senior year students. So those boundaries need to be quite different to the ones that you set when they are younger. But it's really crucial, because if you really want to develop a good connection, a good relationship with your students, so you can really get the best out of them, and they are willing to share and to do things, then you really need to establish healthy boundaries. Otherwise, not much learning happens these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Sam, Di, I believe I'm over to you now.
So I wanted to share with you something really quickly about the time when I had all eyes on me and my child for not following those boundaries that we'd set. So I want you to imagine I was 8.5 months pregnant, was extremely tired through lack of sleep and all those things that you do when you're pregnant. And my son was 3 years old, and we had gone to the park with a group of friends of ours. So it came to that time where it was time to go home. I was shattered, needed to go home. So I said to my son, right, we need to get into the buggy. Off we go. We're going to go home. Complete no. No, I'm not going. I asked him again, and his response was exactly the same, but this time louder. And it just escalated into more and more and more, to that point that I felt like all I wanted was the ground to just swallow me up, because I had in a park and you've got all these parents and all these people around you. And the issue is that I got so cross at that point that I physically forced him into the pushchair, and he was screaming, absolutely screaming at the time. I then cried the whole way home, and the stories that I was telling myself were things like, I'm such an awful mum, why is he so naughty, he only does this with me, he must hate me. And those were just a few that were going through my head through the tears. But I then think about, with what we do with emotional intelligence, if I had stopped and really thought about what it was that he needed in that moment. Because when children are displaying these types of behaviors, it starts to trigger something in us. So all those stories that started to come into my head, it triggers something in us. And it's that whole, if we really look at our child and really see their innocence, really look at their innocence and think, well, what is it that's triggering this moment? What is it that's making them feel this particular way? Now, I just told my son, come on, off we go. No warning, nothing. And he obviously felt like that was totally unfair, totally unfair. Now, once his behavior started to escalate, I never asked him what he needed then. I was far more concerned about what others were thinking around me, started to judge myself and my child so harshly. If I had just stopped and really been present in that moment with him, the result may have been so different, very, very different. And what we say is no child is naughty. They are behaving in a certain way because they may feel overwhelmed, overstimulated. They just don't understand, but they may not be able to articulate exactly how they are feeling. There's just a number of reasons for why a child would behave in a certain way. Now, my son is now 12, so 9 years down the line, that still applies. Those points where he's quiet, he's moody, keeps himself in his bedroom. But what we've done in our household is we've really created that culture of we ask our children, well, what do you need? And it's the whole thing of the response might be nothing, and that's okay because that's what they need in that moment. But if they know that you are there for them whenever they want to talk, and even if they don't want to talk, that's okay as well, then that really deepens that trust and it opens up that doorway of communication with your children. Now, we talk about empathy and what it means. And I think in our own way, we are all empathetic, but when we really see the innocence in someone, particularly in our children, that is that point of going, it's a layer underneath. It's the real true expression of being empathetic. And in order to kind of set those boundaries, the balance between empathy and assertiveness is really, really important. If we were just empathy all the time, no boundaries would be able to be set at all. So the key kind of point of what I'm getting at here is the stories that I was telling myself about my child, as well as my own parenting, was impacting my connection I had with my child. And now that I've learned these types of strategies, being able to see my children's innocence, it gives the ability to really look beyond the behavior and the judgment. So I think, you know, talking about the Play-Doh, if we think about the Play-Doh as our child, and, you know, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with that, my little snail. But there's, you know, beautiful creation that we have that we want to care for and really protect at all costs. When they start to misbehave or act up, as we kind of say, we then start to create and hold those stories that they are naughty and what will people think of me. And what we tend to do at that point is we're taking that Play-Doh and we are completely crushing it. So the question is, how do we now protect that? When we remove ourselves from the stories and we look and when I say see the innocence, children are completely, they're the most innocent things in the world. That we know the things that they say are just beautiful because they are so innocent. So when we really see the innocence in a child, it will stop that judgment and that self inner chatter happening, because we will just see our innocent child and we'll want to protect that, because really that's what we truly want as parents, as educators, as anybody who is around children, grandparents, everything. But sometimes the emotion can just become too much. It can just kind of overflow and become too much. So it's about kind of that stepping back and really seeing the innocence in your child. Myra, I think we're moving on to
No, it's
you now.
me.
Oh, is it you, Sam? Sorry, it's
Yeah.
you, Sam.
Well, because you do make a valid point, actually. Like I remember when I started my journey with EI, like to hear sort of, yeah, you know, see the innocence in your child. And I would to a point, but then I was like, why is it not working? Why am I still like getting frustrated? And just a bit like you, Di, when you said like you were sat in the car and you were like, oh, I'm such a bad mom, like not good enough at that. It's that conversation in our heads that has to be understood as well. So we can see the innocence in children, of course we can, but it has to be about us too. And I know that I'm not alone with the thoughts that go on in my head. And I think it's really important that we become conscious and we're aware of what is actually going on in our head. Because if we aren't aware of that, then it's so damaging to the boundaries that we are trying to set. It's damaging to ourselves, to our children, and to really follow through with those boundaries so that our children feel safe. So my Play-Doh, I have created a nice little rose here. And I wanted this rose to really represent us, like the real beauty of us. And an example that I'd give to you is when my little girl was 2, and I'm pretty sure we were in Home Bargains. For anybody in the UK, they know who that is. They know where that is. And I was like, no, I'm not buying anything for her. I'm not buying anything for her. And she obviously wanted something and she cried. And it wasn't like a major meltdown, stamp my feet, scream at the top of my voice, but it was still, she was crying and sort of making a little bit of a scene, really. And people were looking at me, and you know that feeling when you're like, oh God, I can see everybody around me right now, and this is really uncomfortable. And the voices in my head, obviously I wasn't conscious of it at that time, but they were obviously playing out. And there we go. Because I had listened to that, the boundary was lost. And I was like, okay, fine, you can have something. And I gave it in and gave it to her. And it's only now that I know that, you know, other ways to deal with moments like that. But I didn't know at the time because I wasn't conscious of it. But what really was happening for me is this was the true beauty of me. And those thoughts in my head of, oh my God, what must people think? Literally, peel away the petal. Oh my God, I'm such a bad parent. Peel away the petal. Why can I not make my child happy in this moment? Peel away the petal. Like,
what are other people going to think?
Yeah, what are other people going to think? What are other people going to think? I can't control my child. Like, peel away the petal. I didn't realize that what I was actually doing was like taking the true essence of me away. Like, I didn't value me enough. I didn't love me enough. And I definitely didn't see the innocence in me. I was just picking away the petals, every thought that I had. And if we don't know what to do with those thoughts in our head, then they stay there and we lose that beauty of ourselves because we believe that we are not good enough. And I guess it's the same in the classroom too. I know I can speak as a teacher that I have so many thoughts when I'm teaching. If a child has not followed through with something, it's, oh my gosh, why can't they listen to me? Oh, I can't keep up with that work. I must be a bad teacher. Why can I not do it like them? Why do they make it look so easy? The constant internal chatter. But I didn't know any of this. And then I obviously did my EI training and I understood why I was in that repetitive cycle of everything feels so challenging. And that's when I really learned to listen. Like, I mean, really listen. And what was I saying about myself? And what was I saying about my child too? And that's internally and externally, because I think we, as parents, we can sometimes be really blasé about things and say things to other mums to feel a bit connected, to go, oh God, I'm such a forgetful mum. Or, yeah, I'm that mum that let my child go on the tablet. But even if we're saying it in a really funny way and joking about it, we actually are just stripping the petals back every single time,
It's out
because
there. It's out there in the
yeah,
universe, isn't it? It's
it
there. Yeah.
is, because there's a deep unconscious belief within us that we are holding on to. And seeing the innocence in you, that actually those beliefs, they're programmed in you from when you were a child. You don't know this. I didn't know this. But we've learned that, that feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not in control here. Like, we've learned that that's part of our identity. And that's the same for our children. When we say, my child's being naughty, like, it becomes a part of their identity. Like, our external talk about them becomes their identity, just as the internal chatter for us is our identity. And then we get stuck and we can't move and we wonder why everything's so difficult. But it's about, how do we put the petals back? Because yes, we peeled them off, but we can put them back. Of course we can. And that I know from firsthand experience so vividly. I remember it. I was with my little girl in Tesco's, and this was after all my EI training and learning. And we were in Tesco's on a Sunday afternoon. Yep, I'm that parent that took my children on a Sunday afternoon when
You're
it was
brave, Sam. Brave.
super busy. They're really tired. Took her in, and the meltdown that she had was, oh, I never experienced anything like it. And I still remember to this day exactly where it was. It was in the meat aisle, right on the corner. Because everybody was walking around and she was screaming and stamping her feet because I told her she couldn't have a toy. Um, and they were just walking by, sort of looking, and I was like, and then my husband, like, he couldn't deal with it either, so he was like, I'm just walking away. And I was like, okay, cool, so I'm gonna deal with this by myself now. Okay, cool. But I was like, how do I give her petals back? How do I not crush her? How do I see the innocence in this moment? And that was, her emotions are so high because she really wanted that toy. And that's okay, because don't we all want things in life that we sometimes don't get, And it was the high sensory overload of trolleys everywhere, noise, tiredness. And it was see her innocence and say, she is a great kid and she is just having a hard time right now. And that gave the petals back to her. And then I had to give the petals back to me before I could really solidify that boundary. Like, that voice was going, everybody's looking at you. Oh my God, like, you can't control your child. And I was like, take a breath, breathe in. This moment does not mean that I am a bad parent. I am a good parent, like a really good parent. And I am safe. She is safe. I love her and I love me. And it was that moment, like, I remember, like, messaging our Lindsay, our coach, and I was like, oh my God, like, this stuff actually works. I couldn't believe the peace I felt inside of me of like, oh my God, that's what it is. It's having compassion for her, having compassion for me. And then I'm able to meet her in that moment going, oh, babe, I know this feels really hard for you right now that you can't have that toy. And I'm here with you. Like, I sit it out with you. But all these stories that I had in my head, they mean nothing about me and who I am as a mum. It's just that that's the way that I learned to navigate the world safely, because there were things in my childhood that taught me I wasn't enough for some reason. And so it's like I stopped saying to myself those things and actually go, I am enough and I am a good parent. And you know what? At this moment in time, maybe in a different situation, it was, I am having a moment of anger, or like you die when you push your child in the
Oh,
pram. You were like, I'm just having a moment of frustration and anger, and
but
that's okay.
the guilt that I felt afterwards was just horrendous. It was horrendous. But now that I know about emotional
Mm.
intelligence, it's that point of giving yourself that
Yeah.
compassion that, at that point, his needs weren't being met and my needs weren't being met. So and that's where seeing the innocence is really where
Mm.
both needs are then, because, we can't really move forward if people's needs aren't being met. They're either not being seen, heard, or valued.
Mm.
So, and it is just that simple thing of, what do you need right now? What can I do? Can I do anything?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then that is okay. And I think before I did emotional intelligence, that whole point of going, I'd feel, if they went, no, 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 I'm fine, I'm fine. I'd go, well, why don't they want me?
Hmm.
I need to help them. I need to fix them. I need to do
Mm.
this. I need to do that. So that, exactly as you're saying, Sam, that emotional inner chatter that would
Yeah.
completely, that Play-Doh, that was me too. I was just crushing myself. And I didn't realize until I started doing emotional intelligence, I didn't realize that my son's anxiety was it was because of me. It was because of me. Now I can look back, and I'm saying that with total love,
Yeah.
because I do now have love for myself.
Yeah.
But it's that whole thing of, the way, in fact, me and my husband were talking about it last night to my mother-in-law. We were like, my husband used to feel really anxious in a restaurant, because you know how kids can be really noisy in restaurants. So
Mm.
he used to feel really, really anxious, and he said last night, he was like, do you know what? Thinking back, that would have caused him anxiety, in terms of,
Mm.
it would have passed on to our son, because they can feel it. They are those mirrors of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So whatever we tend to feel, it definitely mirrors onto them.
Yes, it's
I know. And
amazing when, oh,
yeah, no, you
I
go.
was going to say that it always starts with us first, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Which is what you said,
Mhm.
Sam, something that obviously triggered something in your childhood,
But
because we learn our emotional intelligence from our childhood. So that
yeah.
triggered something in you that made you go, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't,
But
why am
do you,
I'm not doing
yeah.
this right.
But do you know what it is? I think it's like I I saw myself in her. Like that was me as a child. Like, and it's just repeating those. It's repeating those patterns, isn't it? And I could then see the innocence in her, because I was like, that's just what I wanted as a child. Like, I just
Mm,
wanted to be, like you said, I just wanted to be seen and heard and valued.
mm,
And I think that's, that's the key, isn't it? And
mm,
I think it's because you really, like, by seeing that in ourselves, we almost, it's the, we protect the connection, don't we? We protect the connection that we have with our children, but that we have with ourselves. Like I just, when I sort of like went into all this, it was always about the child, wasn't it? It was like, oh, this is what you do. Like all these, we read these books and it's like, do this strategy or do this, try this out. I'm like, but why was it not working? But I was doing that.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
As parents, you are constantly searching for what will click
Yeah.
and what will work. And Sam, you said something, I think, because we've obviously met before, the three of us, but you said something really important earlier about the difference between your two kids now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it, because I remember what I was like parenting my little girl. She's 5 now. And I didn't really start emotional intelligence with her, like the parenting way, until she was like two and a half, probably. And with my son, who's now 2, I have started it right from the beginning. And the difference in them is phenomenal. Like she knows how to regulate her emotions, but it takes just that little bit more support from me to kind of go like, what do you need? Do you need this? Do you need this? And really talk it through with her. Whereas him, it baffles me sometimes. He can like slam his hands down because he's cross about something, and I will look at him and I'll go, oh, like, is this feeling a bit hard right now? And he's like, yeah. And he'll come over to me and give me a cuddle, and then he's absolutely fine. Like, I'm not saying that's always going to be the case, but the difference is like huge, huge.
Yeah. And I felt that in terms of, you know, my son now being 12, but it's never too late to use this now. And the difference in him is incredible. I mean, you guys know I talk about him all the time, and anybody who knows me on here, you know, I talk about my son all the time. And the fact that he, not so long ago, he was having a really tough time at school. Something had gone on, and he got in the car and he was just a bit like, oh, I don't know, something's just not feeling right, mum, you know, I'm feeling and he'd then learnt those strategies through how I now talk to him, how we interact, how we communicate, all those things, those emotional intelligence strategies that we use. And it does have to be practiced. It doesn't just happen once and it's a quick fix. It does take time.
Yeah.
But we got to the end of our conversation and he turned and I went, okay, so how does that feel now? And he was like, yeah, I got it. I feel, yeah, there now. And I said to him, oh, that's what it was. It was his injection that he had at school. And this time last year, he would have freaked about that. No way would he have been able to deal with that. But he said to me, I said that I was panicking all day. I put it on as a post if anybody wants to go and watch. But I was really panicked all day and really worried about him. But then he got in the car, happy as Larry. And I was like, you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good. How was that? Yeah, fine, okay. So then on the way home we were talking and I said, I said, do you think you would have been able to cope with that last year? And he was like, no way. I said, what do you think you would have done? And he went, oh, I would have panicked. I probably would have felt sick. I wouldn't have been able to do it. All these things came in. And I said, so what do you think's been the difference then? And he went, you, Mum, you've shown me how to deal with my emotions and how to really deal with how I feel about things and then being able to talk it through. And I know you're always there. And I was like, I said, yeah, you know, I'm always here for you regardless. But he said, yeah, but I can deal with things with myself now. I'd just like to come and chat to you about it. And I'm like, anytime. You can always come and chat to me about it.
That's
But
what you
even
want, isn't it?
exactly. And that's exactly, and we do a lot of that. What do you need? And he's like, nothing. I just need to go. And then like half an hour later, he'll come back and he'll go, I think I was just feeling a bit tired, Mum, or this. And it's like, okay, that's okay. That's all right. So it really, and now I can honestly say the connection that I have with both my kids now is the strongest ever that I've, you know, my kids are now 12 and 9. So it is never, ever too late to be able to put these types of strategies into place. And, you know, today is just a really, really scratching the surface of it.
Yeah. And I guess we talked about the importance of consistency. That it's not just about reading it on a book or saying, oh, this is what you need to do, okay, and that's it, because it's hard work. It's constant. So every day, and we're going to have days that things go really smoothly and we can really connect and we feel, yeah, I'm the best mom ever. And then there are going to be other days when we're not going to feel like that. So it's that consistency. And above all, it's not judging ourselves when things don't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So I guess it's it's a constant work, isn't it? But I'm not saying work in a hard way, but it's like, well, we know we're going to have another go at this. So if this didn't work the way I wanted, there's going to be a next time. So how do I prepare myself to handle this in a different way? There's always going to
It is
be
in the
an
practice, isn't it? Yeah, it's in the practice. It's not until you've practiced enough, it will then become natural to you, but it is in the practice. Yeah.
Exactly. So the practice is really what makes a difference. And the results are just amazing because boundaries are important, but if we use them as a way to really connect with our children, not just as a punitive measure, then we can really set up the environment for them to thrive because they're going to feel supported and they're going to feel that they can actually come and talk with us whenever they need to talk to us. So that makes a big difference.
Creating that safe, loving environment, isn't it? So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm very conscious of the time because we said we were going to have some time for questions, and I think there might be some questions.
Yeah.
So we've got Sophie has said, as a teacher, I really try to make sure my pupils feel seen, heard, and valued. Absolutely. However, in the classroom, we can be under real pressure, time constraints. Oh, we hear you, Sophie. What advice do you have to educators who don't always have the time to give each child that moment?
I guess it depends what age group you're talking about.
It's reception. It's reception.
Oh, okay.
So much younger. I think it would be really important to kind of sit with what's going on internally. Like we were talking about the innocence in the children, but also innocence in yourself. Like, you know, in that, Soph, I know we know each other, but you know, it's that need to, like, I really want to be there for them and I want to give them this and I want to give them that, but really listening to what's the story going on for you. Is it that if you can't give them that, what are you noticing you think about yourself? Because yes, it is the time, the pressure. I absolutely hear you on that. And yes, wouldn't it be amazing if we could give each child every moment that they needed? But it's just reminding yourself that even if you have been to one child in
I
that
was just
day,
about to say that.
like
Yeah.
you've made a difference to that one child. Like, and that's reminding yourself, God, I am a good teacher because you know, some of these children don't get any time where like they're not seen or heard or valued, but you've given them that. And it's reminding yourself, do you know what? I have done the best that I can do with what I have, like the capabilities that I have, because otherwise you're going to push yourself to a point where it's like you're trying to be something for everybody, but you can't.
Yeah, and that's not sustainable. Yeah, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I feel that I get delayed guilt after I may have dismissed an emotion or battered off, and I know I shouldn't have. So, Sophie, are you saying in terms of if a child has shown a particular emotion and you haven't been able to give that moment to them, you then feel that internal guilt?
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
I guess you can always, I mean, how wonderful is it for a parent or a teacher to actually go back to your child and say, look, I'm really sorry. I realize now that you were upset or you are still upset. What's going on? I'm really sorry that I dismissed it. Or even if you don't want to say that, I mean, I think it's important to recognize when we feel that we've done something that wasn't the best. But even if you don't say that, just address it then. So what's going on? So what do you need? What's happening?
Yeah.
Don't just say,
She said,
okay, I missed the
for
opportunity.
example, for a cut finger. So that child, so 4 or 5 years old, you know, that's massive for them, isn't it? I've cut my finger. So it'd be like the time pressures of like, I can't give them what they need in that moment. But I think like even with things like that, we feel like we need to solve everything for them, and we need to be there, especially in those early years. Like, oh, I've got to help them through their
Yeah.
emotions. Like, but actually, do you know what? That is life. Sometimes they are not going to have you as the teacher by their side, or they're not going to have a parent by their side to deal with that, and that's okay. And it's being okay within yourself. Like, do you know what? I didn't get to meet that child with their emotion, but that's okay, because they would have learned some way that they had to deal with it, because you're not always going to be like, no, go away. You don't always ignore them. It's just that one time in that moment, and that's okay.
But I think I definitely think in terms of how, and it's become a word that, or a phrase that I use all the time now, is what do you need? And I think getting used to saying that, if that child's come up and hurt their finger, absolutely bless them. It's like, what do you need? They may just turn around and go, I just want to cuddle or something like that. And it's like, okay. And that, and that at that point, that is all they needed. They don't need anything more than that. They're just feeling vulnerable and they're feeling sad at that point. So all they need right there. But the thing is, it's not about dismissing their emotions either. It's about going, okay, let's, and that's why the what do you need is perfect, because then they can articulate that. And if they're, bless them, reception are little, aren't they? So sometimes they can't necessarily articulate that. So being able to give them those options is perfect, because then they know what they can choose. But yeah, I think having that bank in your head of what do you need, what do you need from me, and what, how, just that's what I use all the time with everything. What do you need? And I even say that to myself quite a lot. If the kids are having those moments of arguing or whatever, it is, rather than having that internal chatter of going, oh God, oh, and just feeling that emotion start to, because it's volcano, isn't it? It's that volcano starting to erupt. And I have said to my kids before, right, I need to go and take myself upstairs for 5 minutes because I'm feeling this particular way. And then they'll kind of go, oh, okay. I was like, you can carry on if you want, but right now I need to go and do this. So it's definitely such a good phrase to have in your vocabulary constantly.
Yes, and it also helps them really think what they actually need. What are they experiencing? Because self-awareness is one of the main things here. Because to be able to regulate your emotions, you actually need to be able to know what's happening inside you. So let me just wrap up. We have a few more minutes, and I really want to share something special with the people that came tonight. So today we really looked at, like you said, we should scratch the surface, didn't we? And it was in
Can't cover it in an hour. Can't.
So we really looked at what boundaries were and what they were not. And we looked at also how important it is to see the innocence in our child. So when we see the innocence, we actually, most of the times, we change automatically. The way we feel, we're about to explode, just, okay, now I can deal with this in a different way. But it's also important, we said, to see the innocence in ourselves and meet ourselves with compassion, so we can self-regulate our emotions. And also we talked about the importance of consistency, because I think that's what really gets you being able to do things like this all the time, or more often than not. Now, we are all emotional intelligence coaches, so if anyone has any questions or would love to contact us for other things, then I think you've got our details here. But most importantly, if you have a few minutes, if you can put on the chat now what other talks you would love us to create, so we can do this type of things more often and we can be in conversations more often, hopefully with less technical issues. We have to sort that out. But it would be really good. So if you're happy to write a few things on the chat, what sort of things you might want us to work on. And the other thing is, thank you very much for giving up a Sunday afternoon to spend some time with us. We know that this is valuable time for you to be with your family or get ready for the week that is starting tomorrow. So because of that, we would love to really, in return, give you a gift. So we would like to send you an ebook with summary of our talk, but also a few more extra strategies that can help you create a more harmonious environment at home. So in order for us to send you the ebook, if you're happy to add your email to the chat, on the chat, put your email, and this week we will send you an email and respond with the ebook, and yes. And then you also have our contact if you want to then message us for anything else. So are there any other questions or comments? We would also love, are there any questions that we can, because I can't really see the chat.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
I think
sibling
Amy.
conflict.
Yeah, I think Amy's put sibling conflict. Yeah, we can absolutely do
100%.
one.
Yeah.
I'm right here for that.
Yeah, mine too. And I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. So the conflict that they have, absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
think it's great because I only have one child, but both you and Sam have two kids at different ages. So I think it's great to see conflict when they're younger and conflict when they're more in the teenage years.
Yeah. Self-compassion when parenting for another one. Okay.
Writing these down.
Yeah, me too. Sorry if we've gone quite writing them down. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, self-compassion is a big one. It really is, because I mean we have literally scratched the surface of it tonight, but you know, until that's a good one to really do and to
Now,
look at.
it would be really good for us to also get some feedback on today's masterclass. So it was if you are happy to just write a few things on the chat, we would really appreciate that. What sort of things I'm going to ask you now? What do you need? So when we structure our next masterclasses, then we do that with that in mind, because we really want to listen.
Yeah, because we really want to be able to create these masterclasses for the need that people are having right now. Yeah, that's fine. It's just I ended up joining late, so I'll re-watch from the beginning. Brilliant. That's brilliant. I think it's yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we really want to create these masterclasses to really give those key elements of emotional intelligence to really make life feel a little bit easier at times, doesn't it? Because when we are in that kind of inner chatter, it can feel so overwhelming. I just remember how I used to feel so overwhelmed that, you know, being a parent, being a working parent, being a teacher and being around children, it can just feel really overwhelming. Language cues with children around emotional intelligence. Oh, that's a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Language is key, absolutely
And
key. So yeah, that would be
giving them the tools they need to be able to express how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Because there's the happy sad, but there's so much more that they can say.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We've just had one join late, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm going to write these down as well. We've had one say, do you do any courses?
Yes. So we are actually, that's another thing. So if we are creating, well, we have a course for teachers and a course for parents. So if you're interested, just let us know on the chat and we'll send you information about the upcoming course. So yes, it's awesome. We are working on an 8-week course that is really going to talk about this, but like in much more depth.
Yeah, that 8-week course is really kind of the in-depth stuff. It's really kind of getting to the bottom of it all. So yeah, it's changed our lives in terms of as parents, as educators, as everything else. So yeah, it's a
I was going to
incredible.
say, but we're all trained profilers, which basically means we are able to share with you your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And when I learned about my emotional intelligence and all the different areas, you know, like stress tolerance, my empathy, my assertiveness, my self-regard, when I understood all of those areas, it honestly changed my life, because I didn't know what was at play. Like, I didn't know that there were certain situations where my assertiveness was too low, but that was because of my self-regard. And I know it sounds a little bit technical, but that's what we do in our profiling, isn't it? Is we go through the report with you and really show you how to have the most connected life to every relationship that you have with your children, with yourself, with partners, maybe with colleagues, friends.
It's your whole life. It encompasses everything. So it is, you know, we always talk about it being, it's the game changer. And it is that whole point of, you know, how can you live a better, more joyful life? Well, we truly believe that emotional intelligence is the game changer. It's that manual to life, isn't it? It's that when a child is born, or when you go into teaching, nobody turns around to you and hands you a list of things that you got to do. You just got to learn on the job. Whereas, you know,
teaching, they think they hand you the
yes,
manual, but they really don't.
There's a lot, there's a lot in that manual. And not a lot of it is about yourself. That's the problem, is it? So it's how you are doing with that. Amy, thank you. I hope a lot of teachers take these courses. I really do too, because it is it's the game changer in education. It would be incredible
And I guess
to get
if
to
we have a
schools.
few teachers, it will be awesome to know what sort of masterclasses they would benefit from.
Yeah.
So if there are a few teachers at the moment watching this, if you can let us know, that would be really good as well.
Yeah, I know Lucy.
In terms of
the,
and in terms of you know, the EI reports, that is linked to, we all offer one-to-one coaching as well. If there's anything specifically in your life that you would like to develop, one-to-one coaching is brilliant for that as well. So
So it all starts with us, isn't it?
and
then the
we've all
ripple
been
effect
there, we've
goes
all
into
done
our
that.
family, our kids, our students.
Imagine how many people could be helped by just understanding children's mental health, and how we can shape it just by supporting them more. Yes,
we hear you.
That is our mission. That is our mission, to get that out to as many, to really change what's happening for the next generation. That is, you know, as a team, that is our mission, to get that out as much as possible.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. We've gone 3 minutes over. 3 minutes.
We do like to talk.
We do. So just to kind of wrap up, thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. We will do more of these. If you can tell friends, family, you know, as many people, it would, and the more we can get that out there, I think it will make a huge difference. So please feel free to contact all three of us, one of us, however you want, and we can give you more. But I have written down everybody that's joined. I've written down their usernames, so I will be contacting you guys to get your email addresses to be able to send you the ebook on boundaries, and a summary of what we've talked about today as well. But thank you so much. Thank you, Sam and Myra.
Thank
Our
you.
first one.
Thank you. First of many.
Have a lovely rest of the evening, and have a brilliant week. And we'll see you all really, really soon.
Thank
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.